Emma's heels clicked against the hardwood floor as she entered her home, the silence broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioner. The house felt different at this hour, bathed in the warm glow of afternoon sunlight streaming through the half-drawn curtains. She had left work early, eager to surprise her daughter, Lily, with an impromptu mother-daughter afternoon. As she placed her keys on the entryway table, a muffled sound caught her attention. Furrowing her brow, Emma tilted her head, listening intently. The noise seemed to be coming from upstairs, specifically from Lily's room. A mixture of curiosity and concern washed over her as she ascended the stairs, her steps deliberately slow and quiet. The closer she got to Lily's room, the clearer the sounds became, hushed voices, punctuated by occasional laughter. Emma's hand hesitated on the doorknob, her mind racing. Lily wasn't supposed to have anyone over, especially not when she thought she was home alone. Taking a deep breath, Emma gently turned the handle and pushed the door open. The scene that greeted her was both innocent and perplexing. Lily sat cross-legged on her bed, her long brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Next to her was Max, the neighbor's son, a lanky boy with a mop of unruly red hair. Both children were fully clothed, their postures relaxed, but their expressions quickly changed to ones of surprise and alarm as they registered Emma's presence. "Mom!" Lily exclaimed, her voice a mixture of shock and embarrassment. "You're home early!" Emma stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes darting between the two children. They weren't doing anything explicitly wrong, yet something about the situation felt off. The air in the room seemed to thicken with tension as the seconds ticked by. "Hi, Mrs. Thompson," Max mumbled, his freckled face flushing a deep shade of red. He shifted uncomfortably on the bed, his eyes fixed on the floor. Emma's mind whirled with questions. Why was Max here? What were they doing? Why did they look so guilty? She tried to push away the worst-case scenarios that began to form in her imagination, reminding herself that these were just kids, her daughter and the boy she'd known since he was in diapers. I didn't expect to find anyone here," Emma finally managed to say, her voice sounding strangely distant to her own ears. She stepped further into the room, her eyes scanning for any signs of... what, exactly? She wasn't sure. Lily and Max exchanged a quick glance, a silent communication that only heightened Emma's unease. There was clearly something they weren't telling her, some secret they were trying to keep. "We were just..." Lily began. But her voice trailed off, unable to find the right words to explain their presence. Emma's heart skipped a beat. In that moment of hesitation, her mind began to race, filling in the blanks with scenarios far more serious than the reality before her. She knew, logically, that she should remain calm, that there was likely a perfectly innocent explanation for all of this. But the protective instinct of a mother, combined with the shock of the unexpected, was overriding her rational thoughts. "What are you two doing here?" Emma demanded, her voice trembling slightly with a mixture of confusion and rising anger. The words came out harsher than she intended, causing both Lily and Max to flinch visibly. Lily's eyes widened, a look of panic flashing across her face. "Mom, it's not what you think," she started, but Emma cut her off with a raised hand. "Not what I think?" Emma echoed, her imagination now running wild. "And what exactly am I supposed to think? Finding you two alone in your room when you're supposed to be by yourself?" Max suddenly stood up, his lanky frame awkward and tense. "I should go," he mumbled, barely meeting Emma's eyes. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson. We didn't mean to. We weren't." He trailed off, unable to find the right words to defuse the situation. Emma stepped aside, allowing Max to hurry past her and out of the room. She heard his footsteps thundering down the stairs and the front door slamming shut moments later. The abrupt departure only served to heighten her suspicions. Turning back to Lily, Emma saw her daughter sitting on the bed, her face a mixture of embarrassment and defiance. "Mom, please, let me explain," Lily pleaded, but Emma was already pacing the room, her mind conjuring up worst-case scenarios. "How long has this been going on?" Emma asked, her voice tight with emotion. What were you two really doing up here? Lily's face flushed red. Nothing. We were just hanging out, I swear. But Emma's mind was already several steps ahead, imagining all sorts of inappropriate scenarios. She thought about how Lily had been more secretive lately, spending more time in her room with the door closed. Was this why? Had she been sneaking Max in regularly? I thought we trusted each other, Lily, Emma said, her voice now tinged with disappointment. I thought we could talk about anything. Why would you hide this from me? Lily's eyes welled up with tears. Mom, please. You're blowing this way out of proportion. We weren't doing anything wrong. But Emma was barely listening now, her fears and anxieties taking over. She began to lecture Lily about trust, about the dangers of being alone with boys, about the importance of honesty. With each word, she could see Lily retreating further into herself, her daughter's expression shifting from embarrassment to hurt and anger. As Emma's tirade continued, a small voice in the back of her mind tried to interject, urging her to calm down and listen. But the shock of the discovery, combined with her protective instincts, drowned out that rational voice. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this situation than met the eye, and her inability to uncover the truth only fueled her frustration. As the initial shock began to subside, Emma took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. She sat down on the edge of Lily's bed, creating a small but palpable distance between them. The air in the room felt thick with unspoken words and rising emotions. Lily? Emma began, her voice softer now but still tinged with worry. I need you to be honest with me. What's really going on between you and Max? Lily's shoulders slumped, her eyes fixed on a loose thread on her bedspread. She tugged at it absently, avoiding her mother's gaze. Mom, I told you, it's nothing. We're just friends. Emma studied her daughter's face, searching for any sign of deception. Lily had always been an open book to her, but now she felt as if she was looking at a stranger. The realization sent a chill down her spine. If it's nothing, then why all the secrecy? Emma pressed gently. Why didn't you tell me Max was coming over? Lily's silence spoke volumes. Emma could see the internal struggle playing out on her daughter's face, the desire to explain warring with some unknown force holding her back. I can't tell you, Lily finally whispered, her voice barely audible. Emma's heart sank. Those 4 words confirmed her worst fears. There was indeed something her daughter was hiding from her. But what? Her mind raced through possibilities, each one more distressing than the last. Lily, honey, you know you can tell me anything, right? Emma reached out to touch her daughter's hand, but Lily pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I know, Mom, but it's complicated. Please, can we just drop it? Lily's voice cracked slightly, a hint of desperation creeping in. Emma wanted to push further, to demand answers, but she could see that Lily was shutting down. Years of parenting experience told her that pressing too hard now would only drive her daughter further away. With a heavy sigh, she stood up. All right, we'll talk about this later, Emma conceded, though every fiber of her being screamed to stay and get to the bottom of things. But this conversation isn't over, Lily. We need to be able to trust each other. As Emma left the room, closing the door softly behind her, she felt a wave of helplessness wash over her. She leaned against the wall in the hallway, her mind reeling. What could be so serious that Lily felt she couldn't confide in her own mother? Over the next few days, the tension in the house was palpable. Lily spent more time than ever locked away in her room, emerging only for meals and school. When she did appear, she was distant and evasive, answering Emma's questions with monosyllabic responses before retreating back to her sanctuary. Emma found herself hyper-aware of every little change in Lily's behavior. She noticed how her daughter would quickly close her laptop whenever she entered the room, how she would lower her voice when talking on the phone. Each secretive action only served to fuel Emma's growing anxiety. As the days wore on, Emma's concern deepened into a gnawing worry that consumed her thoughts. She found herself lying awake at night, replaying every interaction with Lily, searching for clues she might have missed. The once open relationship between mother and daughter had become a minefield of unspoken tensions and avoided glances. Lily's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Emma noticed her daughter's phone buzzing more frequently, always promptly silenced or ignored when she was around. Lily's usual cheerful demeanor had been replaced by a cloud of secrecy and occasional bursts of inexplicable irritation. One afternoon, Emma overheard a hushed conversation as she passed by Lily's room. Her daughter's voice was urgent and low, clearly trying to avoid detection. "No, not now. I can't talk. She might hear us," Lily whispered frantically, before abruptly ending the call as Emma's footsteps creaked on the floorboard outside. The incident left Emma reeling. Who was Lily talking to? What were they discussing that required such secrecy? The possibilities that raced through her mind ranged from harmless teenage drama to far more sinister scenarios. Emma found herself torn between her instinct to protect her daughter and her fear of pushing Lily further away. She considered reaching out to Max's parents but hesitated, worried about the potential fallout. What if she was overreacting? What if there was a simple explanation for all of this? And involving other parents only served to embarrass Lily and damage their relationship irreparably. Feeling increasingly isolated and overwhelmed, Emma turned to her closest friend, Sarah, for advice. Over coffee one morning, while Lily was at school, Emma poured out her fears and suspicions. Sarah listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. "Emma, honey, I know you're worried, but have you considered that there might be a perfectly innocent explanation for all of this?" Emma sighed, stirring her coffee absently. "Of course I have, but you haven't seen how she's been acting, Sarah. It's like she's a completely different person. I just can't shake the feeling that something's seriously wrong." Sarah reached across the table, squeezing Emma's hand reassuringly. "I understand, but teenagers can be secretive for all sorts of reasons. Remember how we were at that age? Everything felt like life or death." Emma nodded, remembering her own turbulent teenage years. But this felt different, more intense somehow. "What should I do, Sarah? I feel like I'm losing her." "You need to know." Emma left the coffee shop feeling slightly better, armed with a plan of action. She decided to take Sarah's advice and try a more measured approach. That evening, she made Lily's favorite dinner and attempted to engage her in casual conversation, carefully avoiding any mention of Max or the incident in her room. Lily seemed to relax slightly, even cracking a smile at one of Emma's jokes. For a brief moment, it felt like old times, but as soon as the dishes were cleared, Lily retreated to her room once again, the door closing with a soft but definitive click. Emma stood in the hallway, her hand raised to knock on Lily's door. She could hear the muffled sounds of her daughter's voice, likely on another secretive phone call. With a heavy heart, she lowered her hand and walked away, more determined than ever to uncover the truth, whatever it might be. As the days turned into weeks, Emma found herself caught in a delicate balancing act. She tried to give Lily space, while simultaneously keeping a watchful eye on her daughter's increasingly mysterious behavior. The tension in the house ebbed and flowed, with moments of normalcy interspersed with periods of stilted silence and furtive glances. One particularly restless night, Emma found herself unable to sleep, her mind churning with worry. As she padded down the hallway for a glass of water, a faint glow caught her eye. It was coming from under Lily's door, accompanied by the soft murmur of voices. Emma's heart raced. It was well past midnight. Who could Lily be talking to at this hour? She crept closer, her bare feet silent on the carpeted floor. As she neared the door, she could make out two distinct voices, Lily's and a boy's, Max's voice, she realized with a start. For a moment, Emma considered bursting into the room, demanding answers, but something held her back. Instead, she leaned closer, straining to hear the conversation through the thin wood of the door. "I don't know, Max," Lily was saying, her voice a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. "Do you really think people will want to watch us do this stuff?" Max's response came through clearly, his enthusiasm evident even through the barrier of the door. "Of course they will. Look at how many views our last video got. People love DIY crafts and challenges. Emma's brow furrowed in confusion. DIY crafts? Challenges? This wasn't at all what she had been expecting to hear. Lily's voice came again, softer this time. I guess you're right. I just wish we could tell my mom about it. I hate keeping secrets from her. I know, Max replied, his tone sympathetic. But you said it yourself. She'd probably think it was silly or a waste of time. Plus, it's kind of embarrassing. Isn't it? 2 high school kids making craft videos? Emma felt a wave of emotions wash over her. Relief, confusion, and a twinge of guilt. She leaned against the wall, processing what she had just heard. All this secrecy, all her fears and worries. And it was about a YouTube channel. As she continued to listen, the full picture began to emerge. Lily and Max had been working on a secret YouTube channel, creating videos about DIY crafts and participating in harmless online challenges. They had been hiding it out of embarrassment and fear of being judged, not because of anything sinister or dangerous. Emma's mind raced back to the day she had found them in Lily's room. They must have been filming or planning a video, she realized. All the hushed phone calls, the secretive behavior. It all made sense now. A mix of emotions welled up inside her. Relief that her worst fears were unfounded, amusement at the innocence of it all, and a deep sadness that Lily felt she couldn't share this part of her life with her own mother. As the conversation inside the room wound down, and she heard Max saying goodbye, Emma quietly retreated to her bedroom. She knew she needed to address this, to clear the air and rebuild the trust that had been strained over the past weeks. But how? She lay awake for hours, formulating a plan. By the time the first rays of sunlight began to peek through her curtains, Emma knew exactly what she needed to do. The next morning, Emma woke early, her mind clear despite the lack of sleep. She busied herself in the kitchen, preparing Lily's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with a side of crispy bacon. As the familiar scent of home-cooked food wafted through the house, Emma heard Lily's bedroom door open. "Morning, sweetie," Emma called out, trying to keep her voice light and casual. "I made pancakes." Lily appeared in the doorway, her hair tousled from sleep, a look of surprise on her face. "Pancakes? On a school day?" Emma smiled, gesturing for Lily to take a seat at the kitchen island. "I thought we could use a little treat. And I was hoping we could talk." Lily hesitated for a moment, her eyes darting nervously between her mother and the steaming plate of pancakes. Finally, she slid onto a stool, her posture tense. "Talk about what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. She placed a plate in front of Lily and sat down across from her, their eyes meeting over the breakfast spread. "Lily, honey," Emma began, her voice gentle but firm. "I need to be honest with you. Last night, I overheard your conversation with Max." Lily's eyes widened in shock, her fork clattering against the plate. You were listening." Her voice was a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. Emma reached out, placing her hand over Lily's trembling one. "I didn't mean to eavesdrop, sweetie. I was worried about you. These past few weeks, you've been so distant, so secretive. I thought..." She paused, realizing how her fears must sound in the light of day. "I thought something was seriously wrong." Lily's expression softened slightly, confusion replacing the initial anger. "Wrong? Mom, what did you think was happening?" Emma sighed, feeling a rush of embarrassment. "I don't know, honey. My imagination ran wild. I thought maybe you were in some kind of trouble, or that you and Max were..." She trailed off, unable to voice her worst fears. Understanding dawned on Lily's face, followed quickly by a mix of guilt and amusement. "Oh, Mom," she said, a small laugh escaping her lips. "Is that why you've been acting so weird? You thought Max and I were... what? Dating secretly?" Emma felt her cheeks flush. "Well, can you blame me? You two were always whispering, always hiding something. I just didn't know what to think." Lily's laughter faded, replaced by a look of regret. I'm sorry, Mom. I never meant to make you worry. It's just, well, it's kind of embarrassing. Emma squeezed her daughter's hand encouragingly. Lily, you can tell me anything. You know that, right? No matter how silly or embarrassing you think it might be. Lily took a deep breath, her eyes meeting her mother's. Max and we've been making YouTube videos, DIY crafts, challenges, that sort of thing. We didn't tell anyone because we thought people would laugh at us. 2 high school kids making craft videos. It sounds so lame when I say it out loud. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed by a surge of affection for her daughter. Oh, sweetie, that's not lame at all. It's creative and fun. Why would you think I'd laugh at that? Lily shrugged, pushing her pancakes around on her plate. I don't know. I guess I just thought you wouldn't understand, that you'd think it was a waste of time or something. Emma's heart ached at the realization that her daughter had felt she couldn't share this part of her life. Lily, look at me, she said softly, waiting until her daughter's eyes met hers. I will always support you in anything you're passionate about, always. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't share things with me. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. I'm sorry too, Mom. I should have just told you from the beginning. I hated keeping secrets from you. Emma stood up and moved around the island, pulling Lily into a tight hug. They stayed like that for a long moment, the tension of the past weeks melting away in the warmth of their embrace. When they finally pulled apart, both wiping away tears, Emma smiled. So, do I get to see these famous videos of yours? Lily's face lit up with excitement. Really? You want to see them? Emma nodded enthusiastically. Of course! In fact, why don't we invite Max and his parents over this evening? You two can show us all your channel. I'm sure they'd love to see what you've been working on too. Lily's smile faltered slightly. You want to tell Max's parents too? Emma gently tucked a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. Honey, I think it's important that we're all on the same page. Plus, I'm sure they'll be just as proud and supportive as I am. Lily thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Mom, for understanding and, well, for everything. As they finished their breakfast, the atmosphere in the kitchen was lighter than it had been in weeks. Emma felt a renewed sense of connection with her daughter, grateful for the misunderstanding that had ultimately brought them closer together. That evening, the Thompsons' living room buzzed with an excited energy. Max and his parents, the Johnsons, had arrived a few minutes earlier, a mix of curiosity and concern evident on their faces. Emma had been vague on the phone, simply saying that there was something the kids wanted to share with them. Lily and Max stood nervously in front of the television, exchanging glances as the adults settled onto the couch. Emma gave her daughter an encouraging nod, silently conveying her support. So, Lily began, her voice slightly shaky, Max and I have something to show you all. We've been working on it for a while now and, well, it's kind of become a big part of our lives. Max stepped forward, his freckled face flushed with a combination of embarrassment and pride. We started a YouTube channel, he announced, his words tumbling out in a rush. It's all about DIY crafts and challenges. We've been making videos for a few months now. A moment of surprised silence followed, broken by Mr. Johnson's bemused chuckle. A YouTube channel? Is that what all the secrecy has been about? Lily nodded, relief evident in her expression. We thought you might think it was silly or a waste of time, but it's become really important to us. Emma stood up, moving to stand beside Lily and Max. I think what these two have created is pretty amazing, she said, her voice warm with pride. And I believe we owe it to them to take a look, don't you? With that, Lily pulled up their channel on the TV. The room fell silent as the first video began to play, showing Lily and Max awkwardly introducing themselves before launching into a demonstration of how to make homemade slime. As the video progressed, the initial tension in the room dissolved into laughter and exclamations of surprise. The parents watched, captivated, as Lily and Max's on-screen personas blossomed from shy and uncertain to confident and entertaining. "Look at you two," Mrs. Johnson exclaimed, her eyes shining with pride. "You're naturals in front of the camera." Mr. Thompson, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "How many subscribers do you have?" he asked. Max and Lily exchanged a grin. "We just hit 5,000 last week," Max said, unable to keep the excitement out of his voice. A chorus of impressed congratulations filled the room. As they continued to watch more videos, the conversation flowed freely. The parents asked questions about the process of making videos, the challenges they faced, and their plans for the channel. Emma watched the scene unfold, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and relief. She caught Lily's eye across the room, sharing a private smile of understanding. The fear and worry of the past week seemed like a distant memory now, replaced by a renewed sense of trust and open communication. As the evening wound down, plans were already being made. Mr. Johnson, an amateur photographer, offered to help the kids improve their lighting setup. Mrs. Thompson suggested a few craft ideas she'd seen online that might make for interesting videos. Before the Johnsons left, Emma pulled Max's parents aside. "I want to apologize," she said softly. "I jumped to some pretty wild conclusions when I first found out the kids were hiding something. I should have trusted them more." Mr. Johnson placed a comforting hand on Emma's shoulder. "We all make mistakes, Emma. What matters is how we learn from them and move forward." As they said their goodbyes, Emma felt a sense of community she hadn't realized she'd been missing. "For being so cool about all of this, and for helping me tell everyone." Emma pulled her daughter into a hug. "Oh, Lily, you never have to thank me for supporting you. That's what I'm here for, always." As Lily snuggled closer, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over her. She'd learned a valuable lesson about trust, communication, and the importance of keeping an open mind. Moving forward, she vowed to foster an environment where Lily would always feel safe sharing her dreams, no matter how big or small. The YouTube channel that had once been a source of secrecy and misunderstanding had become a bridge, bringing their family closer together and opening up new avenues of communication. As Emma drifted off to sleep that night, she felt grateful for the unexpected turn of events that had led to this moment of healing and growth. In the quiet of the night, she made a silent promise to herself and to Lily to always listen, to trust, and to support, no matter what challenges lay ahead. For in the end, it was these moments of understanding and connection that formed the true foundation of family safety and trust.
Disclaimer: this channel does not support or tolerate any form of discrimination, racism, prejudice, or violation of human rights. The stories presented here are original and created by the author with the aim of promoting reflection, awareness, and dialogue. All content is developed with respect for diversity and the dignity of all people.